Welcome back to Yanks Abroad. We had a huge weekend in the title race. City and Arsenal play to a goalless draw. Liverpool with a semi-late winner coming back against Brighton at home. Top four race heating up. Manchester United still suck. And the first pod on the back of the U.S. three-peat in the CONCACAF Nations League. Casey back in the office after a bachelor party for his brother, looking a little bit tired.
Feel great.
Did see all the games, though. How are we?
Feel great. What did I give you percent chance if you got the point? I think I said 20%. Yeah.
How you feeling after that goalless draw? Because the narratives out there about this game are honestly frustrating me a little bit as somebody who watched Arsenal to show up to Big Six grounds for the last decade and get absolutely trashed. And finally now we show up to Liverpool and City this year and draw in both matches, and we're being talked about as if we're Mourinho parking the bus.
So both can be true. You did park the bus, and you did get a really good point away at the Etihad. I don't know why that has to be like a personal shot or a bad thing. Well, because if you opened up, you probably lose the match. So you did what you needed to do to go get the point. My takeaway from it is, yes, you parked the bus. And for Arsenal today, I think that's the right decision. I think what this does prove is that you're not at the level of a Liverpool or a City yet, where they feel comfortable enough to play their style no matter what stadium, no matter what opponent, and whether that's the right thing or the wrong thing. I mean, we saw Liverpool do it in a relatively successful way, but I think you guys getting the point was the best case scenario. I think in your prediction, you said a 2-2 draw. It ended up being a 0-0 draw, but I think most Arsenal fans didn't think it was realistic to go get 3 points anyway. So I think getting the point in a relatively comfortable fashion, was it one shot on goal or two shots on goal?
So that's what I was going to say to you. I think I completely understand like the narrative of, first of all, like I've seen all the gifs that like, you know, there's Arteta and Pep are still passing to each other in the tunnel because it was like 2,000 completed passes and 3 shots on goal total.
Yeah.
We had more shots on goal. We created the same amount of expected goals. Aside from the only shot on goal that City even had was that Ake header on a corner kick, which should
have been a goal.
Which should have been a goal, but like they created nothing from open play.
No, I agree.
And so yes, I agree it can be two things, but I think the negative connotation that's being spit at Arsenal makes no sense. On a day, listen, this is what I have to say, and I think it kind of goes to the point that you've been making for a while, and I think a lot of people agree, is if Arsenal had a singular player in our side that is an overachiever in terms of XG, we win that game. We created more.
Yes.
If we had a Osimhen or if we had Harry Kane or Son, we win that game 10 times out of 10 because we created more. Our chances came in more odd man situations.
Yes.
And as much as that looks sometimes like a park the bus situation, it wasn't necessarily. What we did was we squeezed Manchester City. Anytime they tried to go into our central areas, we squeezed the ball out of them. Gabriel and Saliba, by the way, have completely dismantled Erling Haaland over the past 2 seasons.
They were amazing. And you saying you squeezed them is just... It is a version of a park the bus, which you did extremely well.
But we didn't just park 10 guys on our own box. That's what parking the bus is.
It was 2 low banks. It was 2 very low banks.
They got lower as the game went on. But
right, and that's how it goes.
We had multiple periods in the game where we had a control on the game. Not 20, 25 minutes. Not the Arsenal we've seen all season. But at the same time, to your point about not the level of Liverpool or City, Liverpool and City showed up to our ground and tried to do that, and they walked away with 0 points.
Yeah.
So
no, that's what I'm saying.
Just because you can show up and have those spells doesn't mean that that's the way to go about a game. On another day where Gabriel Jesus in the first half takes either of those good chances, we're up 1-0, and then we've got the game right where we want it.
No, that's literally what I was going to say is, as a Tottenham fan, I've seen us do the park the bus and 100%. Hit on the counter. We just happen to have Son and Harry Kane.
Correct.
And you have Saka, who was absolutely invisible.
I mean, him and Foden basically... Well, first of all, Foden...
No, let's not... we can get to Foden if you want to, but let's touch on Saka first.
Well, here's what I'll say. Definitely not anywhere near his best match.
No. Not any. He was awful. He was entirely invisible.
No, there were multiple periods.
0 chances created, 0.
You're looking at the Stats Muse tweet.
I mean, that's just a fact. What they tweeted out is that he had 0 everything.
He was not,
and that's not saying. But I just looked at the stats. I actually watched the entire game, and he was invisible the entire match.
Multiple patches in the game where he helped Arsenal get a grip on possession times when they. That's the one positive. I agree. This was probably his worst game of the season.
Okay,
but. It was the hardest game of the season. Like, that is to be expected.
Okay, but no, you can't do that because it was the hardest game of the season and your best player goes invisible. That's why I think Saka gets a little, like, once again, I still think Saka is great. He's not world class.
His record against the Big Six speaks for itself.
He doesn't have it in him to go take over the match.
That's completely incorrect.
It's just invisibility cloak
His
today.
record against the Big
Six. He was invisible against Porto in the Champions League when they needed him most.
Invisible and not having your best day are not the same thing. Against today,
no, but he had his worst day.
Today,
he had zero impact on the match.
I mean, I think that's looking at it a little bit in a whatever that's called.
A vacuum?
In a vacuum, thank you. I think that's looking at it a little bit in a vacuum. Yes, this was one of Saka's worst performances of the season, but I think in a match where we're going to set up like that, like that's not a match that Saka's going to be at his best. He's not a transition player.
Well, that's not necessarily true. It's he has less chances and less opportunities on the ball, so you need him to make the most of it. That's why Son's respected because he gets.
But he's a transition player. You're talking about.
He gets 6 or 7 touches against the Man City, and he finishes 2 of them.
And they're playing in transition. He's a transition player.
Correct.
Okay, but Saka was used as I don't know if you saw in the first half, but Saka was used as a
right wing back.
No, well, he was used in defense as a right wing back, but he was used in our game plan as a way of he moved inside. That brought Gvardiol onto him, and Ben White got into space, which got us our 3 best chances of the game.
Yeah.
That was how we were using him because teams are going to key on him. Man City specifically key on Saka. They bring multiple defenders over. Their whole game plan was built around that with Ake and Gvardiol being the left center back.
This match might have saved Gvardiol as being a flop.
Well, this was his best match.
I thought he was fantastic.
Best match in a
He was
shirt.
absolutely fantastic.
This is why they purchased him, by the way, was to do exactly this. Be great going forward, wide range of passing, excellent in 1v1s defensively and offensively. This is the player we saw for Croatia for so long.
I think the only reason you get a little bit of the negative connotation on the Park the Bus is due to the fact that there was no Walker, there was no Stones, and then Ake gets injured. And it's like, if you're Arsenal, I still think the point is a good result. But if you're looking at that back 4, back 3, whatever you want to call it, like if there was any opportunity to go after them and go create chances, like it was this one against Rico Lewis, Akanji, Diaz, and not that they're
you're
bad.
Talking about $100 million pound players.
They're fantastic players, but there's a reason
it's not like facing Emerson Royale.
No, yeah, I mean, there's nothing like that.
I just think like that. I haven't even seen that narrative because I think people understand like with
they're good
City,
players. No, I get it.
First and second squad are so interchangeable.
100%.
I mean, and that's what everyone built towards, and like that's like you saw Kivior. That's not our first choice left back. It has become because of injuries, and he's been playing well. But he's that's what you need is you need your backup left back to be as good as a Kivior or a Akanji or a Rico Lewis, who is a gem they found in the academy, of course. But yeah,
I had 2 more takeaways. One, I thought Kevin De Bruyne was awful.
Worst game.
I think he's in a little bit of slump.
Usually, that was, by the way, brilliant by Arteta. I don't know if you like.
I disagree because he got into a lot of places where if he was having a good day, his services and like creation with what we know he's capable of. He got frustrated
early though by the fact that anytime he popped up in the left-hand half spaces, Ben White was on his. That's why Saka was playing that right wing back because Ben White was basically shadowing Kevin De Bruyne in that first half, and then De Bruyne got frustrated, and in the second half he was terrible.
He was. I mean, yeah, but usually whether you want to Arsenal frustrated, but like Kevin De Bruyne, the spaces he got into and the opportunities he had to whip different balls in on another day, those are way more dangerous.
So why is that coincidental? But Saka's had the worst match of all time.
No, I'm not saying it's coincidental. I'm just saying like
that's my issue with the whole narrative though of the whole game that everyone's talking about is like, oh, like the Arsenal parked the bus. We're the first team to stop Manchester City from scoring at home in 57 matches.
It's not a negative thing. It's just a fact. But I think the reason it's become a narrative is because Arsenal fans try and act like they didn't park the bus.
Park the bus has a negative connotation. You talk about Brentford as parking the bus.
It does have a negative connotation just because, like,
we scored the most goals in the league.
As a neutral, you never want to see that. Like, this was built up to be such a fun game, and neutrals are obviously going to hate on but as an Arsenal fan, I would be happy that we parked the bus because that would be delusional to think that you could go out and go beat them. I don't think you're at that level yet, the way Liverpool is.
I mean, everyone says the way Liverpool is. Liverpool have won Premier League. If we were to go win the league this year, we are the level of Liverpool officially. They've won 1 Premier League over Manchester City.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm just saying, like, there's such a narrative that Liverpool is as good as City over this period. They are nowhere close.
No, but they give them the hardest run for their money.
They gave them the hardest run when no one else in the entire league could potentially even give them a run for their money. But, like, if you just were to look at it as Liverpool being a different team every year, like, they have only won 1 Premier League.
No, I understand. But, I mean, they're the only ones who consistently give this best dynasty the consistent trouble that they do. I think that's the only small difference, but I think being
by the way,
being self-aware enough to not do that, I think is very positive by Arteta.
If City win this year and we come second, we've officially come in second to City the same amount of times as Liverpool have. I'm just saying.
I understand. I'm just saying consistently it's known who gives them the most trouble. Where people land is one thing, but that's just a fact that they are willing to open up, play them every now and again, potentially dominate them. And yeah, and then the last thing is I still think your Kai Havertz over Erling Haaland take
was better today?
Was egregious. Erling Haaland was awful.
Havertz was better today.
Havertz had no impact. One wasn't better than the other. Both had zero impact.
Okay.
On a day where Haaland is in good form and has that confidence, why he tried to cut that back to Diaz another day, he absolutely just smashes that into the top of the net. And
well, you want to know why? Because Gabriel and Saliba have his number.
100%. I think, by the way, while that may be true, I think a lot of people are giving him a lot of fits, and people may have, he came in, pretty much dominated the entire league, and now people may be adjusting to how you defend Haaland, and maybe there's a little bit of a playbook out about it, because he is...
All right. Time for it.
You want to do Haaland or?
So what I have for you today, I know you're not the biggest fan of Erling Haaland, but obviously you respect. He's an amazing goal scorer.
He's a deadly finisher.
People did not necessarily like this segment when we did Pulisic or. I still stand by everything I said in that. I don't know if Casey feels
surprisingly enough, the most hate you got, I think, was for Kavicha.
Kavicha and Diaz. Kavicha is the biggest, you watch comps and he's a merchant of just, incredible skills. Find me somebody who watches every Napoli game.
How many people are watching every single Napoli game on Paramount Plus?
My point.
Yeah.
We're plugging Paramount Plus. All right. Haaland or. He obviously is still in the lead for the Golden Boot, but he has, in 2024, take away the 5 goals he had against Luton Town in the FA Cup.
Yep.
Let's put that aside. Luton is a bunch of plumbers.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt, but before you do that, when I say that about Arsenal and when they put 5 and 6 up on the relegation favorites, it's the field tilt was eventually. So all I want is some consistency. If you're gonna do that to Haaland, who I'm not even a fan of, I can do that to Arsenal.
He has 5 goals in 14 matches outside of that, including international play where he missed a penalty from Norway.
Yeah, I saw that.
I'm going to give you some strikers.
Okay.
You're going to tell me if you would prefer right now. I'm not saying in 5 years.
Today.
Right now, if you're putting a center forward on the pitch, if you would prefer Haaland or this player.
Perfect.
Osimhen.
Osimhen for sure.
Lautaro Martinez.
I think he's been
over Erling
unreal.
Haaland.
Lautaro Martinez today, yes.
Gyökeres.
Transparently, I don't watch enough. I've never watched a Sporting Portuguese match, and I've seen him in Champions League, but I'm probably taking Haaland over Gyökeres.
Son.
I'm taking Son for sure.
Kane.
He's in fantastic form. Kane, easily best striker in the world.
Ivan Toney.
Nah, I can't do that. Haaland.
Darwin Nunez.
This will get people fired up. I'm still going to take Haaland, but that is really, really close.
Really? I'm going, Nunez is the one that's really clearest for me on this list. You know I love Nunez.
No, we both love Nunez, but that's a little, Haaland is so bad right now.
All right.
No, I can't yet. He's too inconsistent.
Højlund.
Still Haaland.
Havertz.
Still Haaland.
Ollie Watkins.
Haaland.
Yeah, second in the race in the Golden Boot.
Haaland.
Yeah, for sure. Kolumwani.
Haaland. Kolumwani isn't even in their starting 11.
I'm just saying strikers on big teams. Isak. Yeah, right now I think
Isak is fantastic.
Well, the issue is when Haaland's not scoring, he's not adding anything. So
correct. That's the problem. Is in his current form, he's almost useless because he doesn't help in the build-up play. And people will tell me Pep doesn't want him to. He needs them to push the center backs and stay on that back line. But
unless you have the 2 best center backs in the league and you park the bus and then you keep him to 0 goals.
Right, and then he's useless. Yeah, I think also side note, Newcastle is going to finish where they're going to finish, and I think Isak could potentially be looking for his way out.
It looks more and more like he might be moving, and I think
I don't know where he goes,
I think we might pull out of Osimhen race and just go for him. He was the guy Arteta wanted 2.5 years ago.
All right, at this rate, you've said you're interested in every single striker.
Well, we are. That's just the truth. We're going to go for the best market.
Can we bring in Isak?
Can you?
How much does Isak cost?
80 to 100. I don't think you can.
Vlahovic for sure.
And Lewandowski.
He hasn't been great this year, but today I'll take Lewandowski. Holland is in like really,
Is there
really
anyone
bad
I
form.
didn't mention that you would put at center forward right now except for Erling Haaland?
He doesn't play center forward, but like I would.
Here comes the Brennan Johnson take.
No, he's fantastic. But I would probably take. It's tough, but just like in a vacuum, I would take Griezmann over.
I almost
Haaland.
put Griezmann, but I don't. He's not a center forward.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I almost put Griezmann on the list.
Griezmann, like also not a center forward, but Bellingham.
Yeah, I almost put Bellingham too. I just looked at like all the top scorers in the leagues.
But yeah, Haaland is in. He's currently the reason that Man City will potentially not win the title.
I think the other issue for Manchester City, and just to close out the Manchester City talk, is Julian Alvarez also in bad form.
Correct.
So they're kind of like back to where they were with when Gabriel Jesus, because he goes obviously in and out of goal scoring form. Like they're kind of back in that situation where it's like, where are the goals coming from?
Right.
Doku can't get a shot
near
the goal.
So
he can't get a shot near the
God.
goal. He had 2 opportunities in this match where the fact that he didn't even get it on target.
That left-footed shot.
I was going to drive to the byline, get the ball into the box, get the ball on net, and Doku is just falling off.
I thought Grealish like had bright spots when he came on.
I mean, did you see Pep yelling at him?
Yeah. When they win and Pep does that after, it's like Pep never stops. Like is a perfectionist. I thought he was doing the same thing. They just happened to not win. Like it didn't look like Grealish was upset. Like they were having a conversation. He was sharing his thoughts after the match. He does that all the time.
I got my wife to watch this match with me, and at the end she's like, "He's gonna do that in front of the entirety of the world."
Yeah,
and I was like,
does
"That's
that
what he
all the time.
does,
Yeah.
man. That's just what he does."
All right. Well, before we move real quick, where are you at in the title race?
The run-in's going to be the run-in, and I think it's kind of like we need to talk a little bit about Liverpool before to talk about this. But, you know, we couldn't walk out of there without at least a point, so I'm not going to be upset. But I was saying the last 20 minutes, and I was tweeting a little bit about it, it's like, at what point was it, okay, even if we draw, now we're still no longer have the title race in our hands, right? And we kind of have the toughest run-in of the 3. Every match is winnable, but I would say we probably have the toughest run-in. Listen, I think we should just move to talking about Liverpool because it kind of explains what I'm going to say. But Liverpool basically are playing every single match like it's a basketball game. It's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Anyone could score at any moment. I don't think that's how you win the Premier League anymore. I don't think you can really do that week in and week out. They got pretty lucky today. I thought Brighton could have scored at least 2 goals. I think Brighton, and it's been a problem for Brighton since the Graham Potter days, they don't have finishers.
Yeah, but Brighton's really good, and I think at this point, no matter how it looks or how it happens, the title race and like these big teams, they just find different ways to win.
They do,
including Salah
seemingly
scoring winners.
Yeah, seemingly that's Liverpool.
Like so, we want to go into the tactics and see how did this work? Did it look good? This, that, and the other. But the reality is, they got 3 points against a very good team, and that could end up being extremely huge on a day where they weren't extremely dominant.
It's just like I think. Since January, we've basically been saying that every match, and like at what point do they either have to just become back to the Liverpool dominant and that way they'll win the title?
Yeah.
Or like, are they really going to go the next 9 matches not being on their day and somehow winning the league? I think that's hard.
I think they'll have some on their day, and I think some won't.
When's the last time you watched them and you're like, this is the dominant Liverpool team?
I honestly don't know.
That's what I'm saying.
They haven't been that team
all season.
The entire season.
Right.
Like, they have maybe individual games where it's like, oh, that looks like the old Liverpool, but like in a big sample size, looking at it, you can't confidently say
that. Kind of reminds me of how we were last year going into these last 9 games.
Yeah.
Was like we had some really good stretches, but like there was a lot of times where like the Bournemouth game, like we ended up winning or like late winners. And like it just felt like, when is this luck gonna run out? And it kind of feels like it may have to, and maybe it doesn't. Maybe the Jurgen Klopp, as we talked about in our first episode, the Jurgen Klopp magic of him saying he's leaving,
right. I mean,
will just carry them to the end. It could.
But they also have Salah, who's probably him and Son are the best finishers currently. And then you have Darwin, who's in great form. Luis Diaz is in great form. Yeah. Like, they have the people that could just make it happen out of nowhere, even
100%.
when they're not on their day.
100%. I would probably put, I would say Liverpool, probably 50% chance of winning the league.
Yeah.
And then I think City and us is pretty equal, 25-25.
Honestly, at this point, yeah, I'd say they just
here's the thing for City. Like, they could win all 9 games they have left, which is what they'll probably do, and they still may not win the league. So it's hard for me to put them higher than 25%.
I think we're going to get some parity, though. I don't think it's just going to be like everyone winning out. Like, I think there's going to be – the Premier League, I think, this is a very solid season, I feel like, 1 through, like, 13 almost.
I mean, I think it's
Like
really broken up.
Wolves is solid, Fulham solid, Brighton, West Ham.
This is the best.
Even Newcastle.
It's the best the Premier League's been in a few years.
Yeah.
Considering the fact that the bottom 4 teams are the worst teams I've ever watched. I mean,
my God.
Sheffield United are on pace to
I know. I saw your tweet.
100 goals is what they're on pace to
bad.
concede. The most ever conceded in a 38-game season is 87. They're going to outdo it by double digits. I mean, it's literally... Anthony Robinson completed 75 passes against them this weekend. Anthony Robinson did.
Yeah, no,
I mean, that is insane to think about.
No,
it's hard to even picture Anthony Robinson having 75 passes ever.
Yeah.
Let alone in one match.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Although he has evolved a little as a player, that's still insane.
I mean, that's egregious.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I mean, I don't have much else to say about Liverpool. I think
I think the Liverpool-Tottenham game could, with the way they're playing right now, could be one of the most exciting matches of the entire season. I have no clue what that's going to look like.
Tottenham have such a stake in every race coming in. The title race, the top 4 race. You already played United twice, right?
Yeah.
And you played Villa twice, so we'll see. But yeah, it's crazy. I guess top 4 race. I mean, how you feeling? Like,
feel good. I think it was similar to what I said about Liverpool. Like, we're in a rebuild and everything's not going to look perfect. And at home, would I love to absolutely dominate a Luton Town and win 4-0? Of course, but our first half form is something that needs to be studied. One, and it's just like I'm getting used to it at this point. And we go down early.
What is that? Why is that happening? Because if you would think a team like the way Ange sets it up, that's like we're gonna play a high line and go after it. You would think the first 20 minutes would be that would be what. I don't
have an explanation for it because it's not like something consistent where it's like, oh, it's on the break or it's this. Like, people are just scoring on us in so many different ways,
their head.
And then we're not putting the ball in the back of the net. And then I'm so confident every single time we go on for halftime. Brennan Johnson comes on for Kulusevski. I think that was the last time Kulusevski will start. I think our best front 3 is either Son, Richarlison, Brennan, or Timo, Son.
In this Ange system, you need transition players, and Kulusevski, he can be a transition player, but he's best in possession.
I think he's gonna move inside.
Well, the problem is him and Madison are kind of redundant together. They're both really more creators.
Yeah. But Madison had another great match, I thought.
That was his
best
match in a while.
I said that I said on my personal TikTok, like, that he needs to start over Mainu, and everyone kept telling me, like, oh, him and Jude play the same position, him and Kobe don't play the same position. But if you watch Madison play, the way he picks up the ball almost like a 6 at times. Like, him and Basuma are level in where he picks up the ball. Like, I think he would actually be perfect. The only match that I wouldn't want him to play the 8 would probably be against France, where a more defensive-minded Mainu would make more sense. But up until potentially the final, I think Madison should start for England at the 8.
I mean, I think we should just talk about Manchester United because Kobe Mainu, and like, I want to start this by saying I think he is so incredibly good for an 18-year-old.
Me too.
But he has so much to learn in terms of responsibility outside, not in possession. Manchester United, like, if he's going to be like this incredible 6-8 hybrid, like, your team doesn't get played through the way that Manchester United got played through against Brentford. And he had the same issue in his cameos for England. He does not know the responsibility out of possession. He is so good in possession, and that's what makes him so great for the average viewer who's watching either little bits of games or watching his comps. Like, incredible amount of poise on the ball for an 18-year-old in incredibly tight situations. But he has so much to learn still, and that's fine. He's 18. Like,
that's what I was saying.
He's got time.
People were like, how are you calling him overrated? He's fantastic. I prefaced it. I was like, I think he's fantastic, but you can be fantastic and also overrated, 100%. Which I think he's getting overrated because the British media either chooses to absolutely hate on someone or gas them up to the
There's no in between.
No, not at all. And he's the bright, young next English star, and they want him to be the greatest of all time. And it's like, he's 18 years old. And I said, when he's 20 at the 2026 World Cup, he may be ready to start, sure. But I'm saying today and this summer, I don't think he should be the starter.
I mean, dude, he wasn't even in the squad.
I'd rather have Curtis Jones.
He wasn't in the squad until he had like a good performance in the FA Cup. Like, I don't think he's on the radar to start.
I mean,
those friendlies were meaningless. I don't think he's...
Were they meaningless? Because I know Kane and Saka were hurt, but they played their...
Yeah, but England literally sent Saka home being like, don't get hurt before the Euros.
No, I know.
Like that, everyone thought Arsenal pulled Saka out, and then England literally came out and said, we sent him home because they're meaningless friendlies, and we don't want him to get hurt.
Well, what was funny is when he got pulled for being awful and then acted like he had an injury.
Arteta said afterwards that it wasn't an injury. He said
so they just had the trainer on just to escort him off the pitch?
I mean, the guy is nursing a horrible Achilles injury the entire season. It's not an excuse. He plays every match with a bad Achilles injury.
He was awful, and he got pulled, and they sent the trainer out to make it look like it was better than it was.
I mean, he got pulled for a better transition player in a game where, at that point, the only chance of us winning was scoring in transition.
And also Trossard, if Trossard starts for Jesus, I think Trossard puts away one of those.
I mean, again, like you're looking for transition players. You had to have Jesus on as a better transition player.
Is Martinelli not a transition player?
Martinelli was not fully fit.
No, I think
You think Martinelli was fully fit? And
I think Arteta finally listened to me. He realizes that Martinelli's not that good.
Honestly,
and he's
I
the
hope
super
that's
sub
the
now.
case because that means Arteta's watching our podcast.
That would be great.
That would be a dream.
All right, but you asked about the top four. I feel extremely confident about it. We have a game in hand, 3 points behind, and I think we're playing well and getting healthy. Once again, I think Dragusin was like just okay. He
was better this match.
But Van de Ven will be back, and barring any crazy injuries, knock on wood, I think, yeah, we get the top four. But
I mean, Manchester United match was the most astonishing thing I've ever watched in my life.
It's 31 shots, Brentford? I think I saw
the fact
that.
That
can't be real.
Didn't win, let alone score 20 goals, was
31 shots? Is that fucking real?
I assume you didn't watch this one.
I didn't watch the Man United
afternoon.
I saw they had 31 shots. How?
And then for a second, Manchester United was about to win it at the death.
I know that.
I'm sitting there.
I watched the abbreviated highlights, but I didn't watch the whole match. But how do you let up 31? Brentford is solid, but how do you let up 31 shots?
I mean, dude, they were so bad. There was literally as if they were not playing with a midfield. Like everything.
Who was the pivot? Manu and McTominay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were just like out here.
Yeah.
And then Bruno Fernandes had one of the worst games of any player I've ever seen in my life. Here's the thing I also don't get about Ten Hag. I don't get anything about Ten Hag really, but this one was pissing me off all match. Marcus Rashford, I think we can both agree, is their best finisher. He's their best just goal scorer. Strictly as a finisher, he can score from the best types of angles. It may be Højlund eventually, but right now Marcus Rashford is an excellent finisher, if nothing else. And he spends the whole match 40 yards away from goal. Like, you need to get your best finishers close to goal. That is obvious. You can't play Aaron Wan-Bissaka, first of all, at left back. You can't play him as an inverted fullback at left back. Then Marcus Rashford has absolutely no help on the wing. He's standing with his heels on the fucking end line. You have Bruno Fernandes. I can't even begin to talk about how bad of a manager Erik Ten Hag is. And then in the fucking post-game press conference, Erik Ten Hag goes, well, Manchester City barely beat Brentford. That was his excuse for not winning the match. The guy is a fucking loser. Every fucking post-game press conference, it's about how Manchester City barely beat this team. Oh, we should have won that game against Arsenal at the beginning of the year, but they disallowed an offside goal. He's still talking about that. He never takes any responsibility, and you know what? It would be classic Manchester United to fire him and bring in Gareth Southgate, who is exactly the same type of manager.
Ten Hag's going to stay.
Either way, they are disastrous. I do not know what is next for this club, but it is not being anywhere near the top four, let alone the top six. They have a 0 goal differential. They are a joke of a club the way that they're run. It is embarrassing. It's absolutely embarrassing. Imagine if the New York Yankees were ran like this. It would literally be the biggest story in the world. It's so embarrassing.
I agree. And I don't have much to add. So let's finish up with
Americans Abroad.
Yeah.
A great week, actually.
Yeah. And fresh off of a great performance when they were all together. I mean, it's getting to be extremely fun watching the U.S. men's national team, but especially when we get to play Mexico because they are so bad.
I mean, Mexico have big problems.
Yeah.
But I also it sucks that we're stuck with Berhalter.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to get the Copa, obviously. And then if we do well at the Copa, what is your, before we get into Americans Abroad, what's the threshold of
that's what I'm worried about, right? Like, I want us to do so well at Copa, but a part of me wants to crash and burn in the group stages.
No, okay. What is, if he doesn't, if he
he's
gets out of the group,
to the semifinal, otherwise he should be sacked.
Should be. I agree, should be. What do you, realistically, as long as he gets out of the group stage, he's here for the World Cup?
What is it? It's group stage, round of 16, quarterfinal, semifinal.
I don't even know if there's round of 16.
I know. That's what I'm worried about.
I think it's just
if he gets out of the group stage, he made a quarterfinal. Are they going to really sack him? You see
No, that's what I'm saying.
You see
so it has to be him crashing out of the group stage, which obviously won't happen.
It's not going to happen, yeah. I mean, if he crashes out of the group stage and they don't fire him, I may have to not watch ever again.
If we don't get out of the group stage and he is our coach for the 2026 World Cup, I will wear a Mexico kit for every single match at the World Cup. I won't be a U.S. men's national team fan.
Love that. All right, Americans Abroad update. Tyler Adams, after that ridiculous goal from the U.S. men's national team, plays his first full 90 minutes for Bournemouth, wins man of the match. I don't know if you saw, he was just absolutely spectacular. He won 9 duels. He absolutely dictated the midfield, and like even British fans were giving him credit because if you look at his heat map, he was absolutely everywhere. Wonderful display in a 2-1 win. Chris Richards played 90 minutes in a 1-1 draw with Nottingham Forest. He was playing left center back in a back 3-5, whatever you want to call it. Love his versatility. He was excellent for U.S. men's national team. So excited that he's nailed on in that back four for us. Hopefully, Tim Ream will be his partner this summer. In that match as well, Gio Reyna actually got to play 30 minutes. Very exciting. I think maybe they saw how good he was for the U.S. team.
That's what I said. I was like, if you're in a relegation battle and you saw what just happened, how does he not at least get on the pitch in some sort
100%.
of fashion?
He came on, and just seconds later, Nottingham scored their goal.
He got the hockey assist. I'm not
assist
going to give him huge credit for flicking the ball back to get that goal, by the way.
Spectacular.
Was insane.
And Matt Turner was on the bench for that match. Tim Ream also on the bench for a 3-3 with Sheffield United. And as I mentioned earlier, Anthony Robinson played the full 90 and completed like 75 passes.
If you are letting up 3 goals to Sheffield United, maybe Tim Ream should start. Yeah, all right.
Calvin Bassey is so overrated.
Yeah.
Josh Sargent scored again. He scored the equalizer in the 67th minute. He has now scored in 8 straight matches at home for Norwich City. Incredibly impressive for the young American. Still just 23 years old. I feel like we've been talking about Josh Sargent since I was in high school, but here we are. Haji Wright again scores as well after his spectacular form for the U.S. men's national team. Scored in the 94th minute, and he played the entire match for Coventry City. Speaking of strikers scoring goals, Folarin Balogun, 2 goals in 25 minutes for Monaco after a not-so-good spell for the U.S. men's national team.
Yeah.
Back and firing in League One. Very excited to see that. Over to Italy. Pulisic did not get the start. From what I was reading, that was because he played a lot of minutes for the U.S. team, and they were resting him. They got a 2-1 win. He played 17 minutes.
Were people really overthinking that and saying like he lost his place?
People were saying that.
I mean, you would have to be an
Chukwueze's also been awful this year. He obviously didn't lose his place.
That's ridiculous.
Yunus Musa also played 27 minutes in that match. I will say, I think Yunus Musa is not quite winning the hearts of AC Milan fans from what I've seen. I think they don't like that he is not very responsible and he kind of like plays all over the place.
I think he's fantastic.
I'm a big fan of his athleticism. Over to the boys at Juventus. Timothy Weah played 27 minutes off the bench in their 1-0 loss to Lazio, and Weston McKennie played the entire second half, 45 minutes. Johnny Cardozo was on the bench for Real Betis' match this weekend in their loss. Over to the Netherlands, we had Serginho Dest playing 90 minutes in the 3-1 loss. Very unusual for PSV to lose. Yeah, they played horribly. Wow. Tillman played 45 minutes in the second half, and Ricardo Pepi came on to play alongside De Jong and playing 31 minutes. To Germany, Jordan Siebatcheu played 62 minutes, and Joe Scally played 75 minutes in their 3-0 loss, and Brendan Aronson played 65 minutes in a 0-0 draw. That's the Americans Abroad update. We've got so many players in this squad playing consistent minutes across Europe. Just enjoy it. It's spectacular. Every week, something different great seems to be happening. Tyler Adams, he's a great player, and Bournemouth is a great side for him. I'm excited to see how he finishes this season.
In 3 to 4 years, maybe less, we're not even going to be able to do that. Like if you're from France, like doing that is
there's
idiotic
so many
and
names
useless.
in our.
It's almost this is potentially the last year or two where even doing an Americans Abroad update makes any sense.
It may not even fit into a TikTok short.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. All right, last thing, I just want your updated starting 11 for Copa after.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty similar to kind of what we were saying, but Turner's going to be the goalie because he's going to be the goalie. We're going to go Dest, Richards, Ream, Anthony Robinson.
Agreed.
Adams, McKennie, Reyna, Pulisic, Balogun, Weah.
You think Balogun still gets the start?
I think to start the tournament, you still have to go with the most talented player who can offer the most. If he doesn't fit in, you don't start him. But he is the most talented number 9 we have. He can, when he's on his day, offer the most. I think Haji Wright is a really, really good super sub.
I was about to say, I think Balogun for 60 and Haji for 30 is like a great recipe. He can be that target
man who
100%.
can change the game around. He's good to be chasing the game. He's good when you already have control. He just helps you gain possession at a time when matches start to get scrappy, especially we know how CONCACAF can be where it gets really out of fucking hand.
Yeah.
Haji Wright's a great number 9 to come in.
I completely agree.
Pepe as well. I thought Pepe was really, really good in that Jamaica match when he came on. I think he was really good at finding open pockets of space. I think he played really well, even in a 2-striker system. I think we finally have so many number 9s that are playable that like poor Josh Sargent is in the form of his life and can't get into the side.
Do you think we'll bring 4? I think you have to. How do you leave one of them out?
I think it's
They've
tough.
all.
Josh Sargent's the most redundant.
Balogun's the only one who hasn't earned his spot.
Yeah, but
that's the sad part.
Josh Sargent is a known quality in this side where Balogun isn't.
Yeah.
And I think Josh Sargent is the most redundant. He's not the best at anything of those four. So to me, I don't think he can be the one who gets taken.
Yeah.
But I mean, just in all likelihood, and I'm knock on wood, but somebody's gonna get injured between now and Copa. So
no, yeah, that's my starting 11 as well, and having the likes of Haji Wright and Brendan Aronson and Yunus Musa coming off the bench is insane. And I think Timothy Weah every single time for the U.S. is maybe our most consistent player.
He's a great outlet.
He's fantastic out on the right side. So, yeah, that's all we have for today.
Last thing I wanted to say actually about the Nations League was I thought it was incredible how Weston McKennie moved to right back in the second half of that Jamaica match. And he looked like he played right back his whole career. We are so lucky to have Weston McKennie as a player in our team.
An extremely talented player.
He could play so many positions. He has played everything at the U.S. from right back to the 6. He has played as a 10. He's played as a box-to-box. He's played on the wing. He can do everything. He's done it well at every single position. I mean, it's just not that normal for the U.S. to have a player like that, of those qualities.
Did you see Juventus offered him a contract extension with a pay cut?
Yeah.
I mean,
that's Italy for you.
I know they're not in the greatest financial spot, but he's been so good for them, a consistent starter. How do you do that? Do you think he's leaving?
I think he should leave if they're going to give him a pay cut.
Where does Weston McKennie go?
It's tough. I mean, I like having those U.S. players in Italy. I think they really are succeeding there. I'd love for him to stay there. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know. I mean, Napoli could be a good fit for him. It depends. Inter Milan could be a good fit for him if Barella and those guys leave.
Yep.
I don't know. I think he'll. I mean, to me, I know if I'm an American, these guys want to move to the Premier League. McKennie tried it, didn't go great, but I mean that's what I think they want to do.
I think he could get a relatively big move. I don't think he'll go to a top 4 club. Definitely a top half. It won't be a Tyler Adams situation where he'd go to Bournemouth. I think he could get a top half club.
I mean, he would be great at Manchester United. I'm just saying.
Are they a top half club?
They're teetering, but Weston McKennie, Frankie de Jong, Kobe Mainoo, that's a nice midfield.
That's a brilliant midfield. All right, well, in Man United fans' dreams.
All right, let us know, subscribe, do the whole thing. Let us know who you think is going to win the Premier League title, who you think the Copa America starting 11 will be. I know a lot of people don't always agree with our USA takes, but we appreciate the comments nonetheless. And that's another episode of Yanks Abroad. Exciting weekend. We've got so much good football in the next couple months before Copa America.
Mm-hmm.
Champions League is coming back. A lot to enjoy.
You nervous?
Champions League? No. I honestly think we're going to wash Bayern Munich.
Okay, and on that, well, I mean, after their performance at the weekend, who knows?
I think I'm way less worried about that. I'm more worried about playing Luton Town on Wednesday.
Okay. All right. Well, on that note, we'll see you next time. Peace.